Hey y'all, so I wanted to get on a video and specifically address some of the things that I think would be helpful for you guys to know going into writing the literature review paper after having looked over your planners. So first things first, if you haven't looked at your planner and at the feedback that you should have gotten on it, do that. Read over it, make sure it makes sense. Contact me if it doesn't or if you have further questions. And also, in this new handy dandy announcement that I posted yesterday, and I'll be posting another one today, going over some of the resources, including this video that I've got for you. There is a video that I think is going to help you immensely. So watch the literature planner to literature paper video. It is me going step by step with my literature review open, my planner open, and my template that I've included here for you guys to use open, and just how I'm converting this planner into the paper by pasting pieces of the planner and filling it out and adding and editing into this template. So everything in this particular week 3 part 1 literature review paper, all of the information in there is super helpful, as is this sample literature review paper that I have written for you. You can use it as a model for the tone, the language, the construction of the paper. So make sure you're using those resources. So a couple other things I wanted to talk about, just to zoom out again. I've told you several times, if you weren't sure what a literature review was, check it out. So if you haven't yet, here's your chance. So a literature review is a document or section of a document. In our case, it's a document that collects key sources on a topic and discusses those sources in conversation with each other. It's a synthesis. It's not just for literature. When we say literature review or talk about the literature, we're not just talking about books like literature, as in the stuff that you had to read, you know, in the 9th grade, like Romeo and Juliet and I don't know, Great Gatsby. We're talking about the sources that exist. That's what that phrase, the scope of the literature, means. The literature is all of the different types of articles, journals, blog posts, interviews, op-ed pieces that exist about your topic. So in this case, your literature review is going to be a standalone piece, and it's designed to help you, just like it says here on Purdue OWL, to familiarize yourself with the topic and with the scholarship that already exists in the field. What is out there about your source? That's what a literature review is about. So if you think about this class as like building on itself, the first paper we write in Unit 1 is a literature review, where you go out, well, you pick a topic and you go out and you investigate what exists about this topic. Are there good sources? Is this an interesting topic? Are people still talking about this? What's going on with this topic? That's what you do in a literature review. You think about the topic, you think about its significance, you think about all the different sources that are available about it, all the different things that you're noticing as patterns and themes. In the next unit for our class, we'll be writing an informative paper on the topic that you looked up for the literature review, because now you've got a couple sources, you have an idea of what's going on with your topic, then you can turn around and inform the public about it because you've done your research. And in the third unit, especially if you're continuing with the same topic, you're going to write an argument paper that's based on all the different sources that you collected about a topic. So you can kind of see how those three things work together. A literature review is the first step, where you compile a couple pieces, in this case, 2 sources, a couple pieces of evidence about your topic, and you think about what they're telling you about your topic and what the scope of the topic is. It's not informing yet. Remember, with your research questions, you're not answering them yet. You're just giving a review of the literature that exists. It's sort of like a State of the Union. You're not informing about the topic yet, nor are you persuading about the topic yet. Your informing comes in Unit 2. Your persuading comes in Unit 3. That's why I think watching those videos will be really helpful to you guys, because I show you exactly how to convert the planner you've already made after you've made any changes based on feedback, how to convert that planner into a paper that is a literature review, following the subheadings that I have for you in the template. One of the tasks that you'll want to do, and like I said, this video, I just want it to be like a kind of an overview of resources. One resource I wanted to mention that I put in the announcement before was a review on how to write a summary and summary writing. Because in those paragraphs, those source 1 and source 2 paragraphs that's in the middle of your research review, you're going to be summarizing each of the sources that you found in a couple sentences. You're going to be taking the main idea and summarizing it. And, 2 to 3 sentences include a summary of these articles that you found. So there's a particular way to write a summary. There's a particular way to start a summary that you guys should have learned in 101, might not remember. So I made you a video called How to Write a Summary, and it relies on this document that's called Summary Writing. So this is just a reminder about what a summary is and some examples of starting sentences for summaries. Reminders about what attributive tags are, and then an example summary paragraph. All of this stuff is available to you in the Unit 1 Literature Review folder in the Instructional Materials folder. Another source I want to talk about, this is more of a trend that I kept seeing in answers, and I just want to clarify something. Bias. What is bias? Okay. Well, a lot of responses I saw on the planner were confusing focus with bias. And by that, I mean, it's not necessarily biased to not talk about everything that has to do with the topic and to not cover every single point of view. That's not inherently biased. If you look at the definition of bias, bias is a prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. So it's not necessarily biased if you are researching something like crime rates in Philadelphia. It's not really fair to say, well, I think this article is biased because they don't talk about any of the crime rates in New York. That's not the focus of the study. If the focus is narrowed down, if your paper, if you're talking about something specific like PTSD in veterans, and an article is just about PTSD in general, then that's not an example of bias. It's just an example of the focus of the article. When you're searching for bias, what you're really looking for is an opinion that is unfair, that it doesn't have any evidence. So if you happen to notice that your paper seems to overwhelmingly recommend COVID vaccinations, that doesn't mean that it's inherently biased. It means that it is offering an opinion. If there's lots of evidence in the article to substantiate that opinion, that's fine. That's not necessarily biased. Authors don't have an obligation to cover every single side. So that's something to keep in mind, that bias is a little bit different than focus. And if that's confusing, just let me know. And the APA Quick Guide is the last thing that I want to show you guys. So this is the APA Quick Guide. So this quick guide for commonly used APA reference types is another resource I wanted to show you. It just basically breaks down APA with examples based on the type of source you have, because that's how APA works. Based on the type of source you have, that's going to change what your citation looks like. So I'm perfectly fine with you guys using a citation generator as long as it's set to APA 7 and as long as you check it for formatting against these examples. You can see that I've broken it down. Everything in here is about if it's a journal article. And when we talk about journal articles, those are the articles that you found on the databases or that you might have found on Google Scholar that come from academic journals. And if you found a source online, this is a breakdown of online sources. So most of yours for like the online sources are coming from news sites. So just consider this is what the news site example should look like. Up here, I have an explanation of how to format it. And below is an actual example. So you can see that I have tried to make this a pretty helpful, concise little guide. And this is the document I refer to in your feedback when I tell you to check it against the APA guide. Figure out the type of source you are, look for the example, and make sure yours matches exactly. The places where they tend not to match are when we're talking about things like, does it go in italics? So if your example if something needs to go in italics, whether it's the title or maybe the publication, as is the case when we're dealing with the journal articles. If something needs to be in italics, make sure it's in italics and check the titles, because titles in the references only, not in the body of the paper, but in the references section of the paper in APA, titles go in what we call sentence capitalization. So if I ever tell you title capitalization or sentence capitalization, here's your breakdown of what that means. Title capitalization is like you see in titles, like books, TV shows, where the big words are capitalized. So little words like prepositions and small words like articles, the, a, and, are typically not capitalized, but all the other words are. That's title capitalization. Sentence capitalization is when you have just the first letter of the first word is capitalized. Any proper nouns are capitalized, and the first letter of the first word of subtitles, which would be anything coming after a colon, are capitalized. So you can see here's an example. This is title capitalization. You can see that journal, children, media are all capitalized, and is not. Neither is of, little lowercase usage is there. And then here in the title, this is sentence capitalization where only the T is capitalized and the A. And if there are any proper nouns, like if the United States was in here, you would capitalize that as well. So that's a little bit of background on the quick guide. So if you see me refer to the APA quick guide in any of your feedback, this is the standard that I want you to check it against. APA is a funny thing. It's not something I can individually teach you because it's a system you have to learn how to navigate. So the most important part is figuring out what type of source you have, identifying the type of source, and then looking at the examples for how you need to format that information. And I did give you specific feedback on your planner. So just check there for your own individual comments on your sources that you made already. And then the last thing that I wanted to include was just a little shout out for these resources that I've just posted, or that I'll just post in the announcement. If you look under content, one of the things you can see, oh, that's something good to look into too, the Hooks PowerPoint as I pass it. If you go all the way down to the content and choose additional resources, there's a section called Online Tutoring Help. And these are two different links. This will take you to the schedule for the virtual Writing Center appointments that you can make. There are limited on-campus Writing Center appointments that you can also do. So you can check into like the schedule, I think online through DTCC should give you information about what hours the Writing Center is open. And then this is a cool thing called Smart Thinking that is an online tutor. So you can submit your papers. I'd give them a day or two for turnaround. So if you figure your papers due on Sunday, I'm not sure if they work on the weekends or how quickly they work on the weekends. So I would recommend maybe like tomorrow evening, try, if you want to use this, trying to get a paper uploaded. It's going to tell you about like the system upload. You're just going to want to click here to continue. Ask me later. Okay, this is going to show up a little bit different for you because you are not teachers. So I will log in as a student and then I have to do this again. Just keep clicking through until you get there. And so when you're in Smart Thinking, what you can do is you can choose Writing Help. You can also choose to get tutoring, which is awesome. From Writing Help, you can choose Essay Center, and you can actually upload, answer all the questions. You can upload your paper, and you can even choose 2 areas where you need help. So if you're like, man, I'm really struggling with these things, choose them. Upload your file just like you would and submit it, and they will give you feedback. I have had students in the past say, yeah, but the feedback they gave me like contradicts what you say. Well, that's that critical thinking. Listen to their advice. If it contradicts something that a teacher is directly telling you, listen to your teacher. Sort of like if you had a supervisor who told you to do something different than your manager. You might be like, but the manager said this, and default to the manager. It's that kind of situation. For the most part, I think that they're really helpful, particularly with grammar. So that's just a little piece of advice. Those are some resources and some things I want you to consider doing as you work through getting the final draft of your literature review.